Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of Council and Committee for the Town of Petawawa for February 24th, 2025 to order. Welcome members of Council, staff, and our members of the studio audience, and those watching from home. I'd like to start our meeting off with the reading of the land acknowledgement, and this evening it's Councillor Tutu.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we gather this evening, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of the Petawawa Town Council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the O'Mama-Winini Algonquin people. We would like to thank the O'Mama-Winini people and express our respect and support for their rich history. We are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years, and we wish to acknowledge our shared responsibilities in responding to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission 94 calls to action. Calls to action number 43. We call upon the federal, provincial, territorial, and municipal governments to fully adopt and implement the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples as the framework for reconciliation. Recent progress. On June 21st, 2023, the Government of Canada released the UN Declaration Act Action Plan. This evergreen action plan, which includes 181 measures to be led by over 25 federal governments and agencies, provides a roadmap of action Canada will take with Indigenous peoples to implement the rights and principles set out in the UN Declaration and to further advance reconciliation in a tangible way. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tutu. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest on any of this evening's matters? No presentation, so we'll get right into it. First up, we have the Fire and Emergency Services Monthly Activity Report from Acting Chief Brew. Greg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, members of Council. I have the activity report for the month of January. To start off, the Chief's comments on the 7th, I attended a labor management meeting. The 17th, we received notification that we were successful for the grant for the Fire Marshal's Public Safety Council, which we received $1,376 for training and education materials. On the 20th, we had the transfer of the pavement adopted by the other fire protection grant that we received, and I attended a senior management meeting on the 27th. We had 7 incidents this past month. We had a smell of burning, which we couldn't find anything on January the 11th. 13th, we had a natural gas leak, but nothing was found. We had a vehicle fire on the 13th. It was a TV that caught fire. Cruiser was extinguished. We had a fire alarm on the 15th, but it was due to a faulty alarm. We had 2 carbon monoxide alarms. One alarm was expired, and another one was due to a vehicle running. We successfully rescued a child out of a locked car on the 23rd. For training our crews, we served on the ice water rescue training throughout the month of January the 9th, the 16th, and the 23rd. We did the course for the ice rescue technician, which was done on the 27th. We brought 13 members up to the technician level. New recruit training, we had 3 members go through on the 21st and the 28th for the orientation and the personal protective equipment and the self-contained breathing apparatus. We had some minor maintenance on our vehicles. For the SCBAs, there was minor replacement of batteries and a face piece was repaired. For emergency management, we continue to work on setting dates for our program committee, and we're still working on drafting the emergency response guideline and updating all the annexes. We had 28 fire inspections from the fire prevention branch with a public offenses notice that was issued by our chief fire inspector, and we met with the community living in Upper Ottawa Valley to go through their fire safety plans. For oops, lost my spot here, sorry. So for the residential carbon monoxide and smoke alarms, we had 4 residents by fire prevention checked, 6 by suppression. It brings us to a total of 10 homes that were checked. Our recreation burn permits are at 925. And that is my report. Questions to me?
Thanks, Greg. Any questions from members of council on the report? Wow. Just a quick question about, I see you're training 3 new recruits. What does that bring our total staffing of firefighters up to?
It brings our firefighters up to full capacity.
Okay, so we're there?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, if there are no other questions, I need a motion to accept the report. Moved by Councillor Root, seconded by Councillor Carmody, that the Fire and Emergency Services monthly report be accepted as information. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Thanks, Greg.
Thanks.
Okay, next we'll go to Recreation, Culture, and Tourism. Colin, your monthly activity report.
Good evening, everyone, Mayor and Council. Just going to review the month of January. We had yet again another busy month. We have started off just recently posting all of the summer positions. We've got a lot more this summer with adding more positions to expand our camps, as well as expanding our tourism and recreation programming for this year. So we're hopeful that we're going to get some good return on the postings that are going out at the moment. We had a great meeting yet again with CNL. And they've agreed for this year, for 2025, they were once again going to be the festival sponsor and main sponsor for Water and Dirt. So that's a huge step and allows us to expand and continue growing that event, which we have put a lot of dedicated effort into. As you can see, over the course of the month, we're continuing to offer a diverse selection of programmings for all ages. I wanted to highlight a few of them. One of them would be for youth between the 6th and 27th. We had a program that was put on for Defend and Empowerment for Self-Defense for Youth. This program sold out extremely quickly and already has a waiting list. So this is something we continue to hope to offer. It was so well received, so I'm hoping that we can continue to do this on and on. A few other notes I wanted to make. If you notice on the active aging side of our programming, our afternoon snowshoeing has reached 60 participants. So if you can imagine our staff taking out 60, 50 plus seniors, this is a great step forward. We continue to grow that program and it continues to see more and more involvement. We've had to cap it just to make sure that we can keep up with what we were able to do. And one more over at Silver Threads. The last one on the list there, this is a new program. Our staff, Rhiannon, went out and got trained in a Stronger You program. So this is probably, since the town was involved with Silver Threads, this was our highest demand, was to see more active programming and exercise programs. And you can see the attendance was 203 attendees. This has got to be getting on the record for a new program to see that kind of involvement right off the go. And it continues to grow. So we're seeing continuous use and it's great. We're getting great feedback from our seniors over there and they're hoping for more. So we're hoping we can also continue to offer even more, and staff are looking at more opportunities to further those types of programs. A few keys for this coming month. We hosted Cabin Fever. Yet again, that's our winter carnival that continues to be busy for us. It's 2 solid weekends of activities. And we had a big milestone this year. We had new champions for the trivia, so I'm sure that's a sore spot for some in the attendance tonight, but it was a great event. It's again sold out, and we had great kids activities. We had great turnouts at many of the events, the music events, so we'll continue to grow that event year after year, and it's always well received by the community. This as well, as far as tourism, we went into a new show this year. It was a first-time show in Hamilton, the Hamilton Adventure Expo. This was a great opportunity for the town to be present, as well as promote what we do here. Not only that, but as well as the Water and Dirt event. The expo was completely sold out. The lineup to get into the show was long, and we've already signed up for next year, as we've seen immediate turnaround and registration go up in some of our events right after the show happened. And then up and coming, we are on the last legs, I'm happy to say, and last stages to finalize the Recreation Master Plan. On February 11th, we closed the community feedback section of the master plan, and we are hoping in the next few weeks that we will have something finalized to bring to council with all the feedback in various capacities that Think has been able to take in from the community to provide us with a finalized document. A few other points. I just got back at about 11:30 last night from the Toronto Outdoor and Adventure Show. Again, similar to the Hamilton Show, we've been doing this for probably about 10 years. It had yet again a great turnout. We were actually able to work with a business that we met at the show, the Paddlers Co-op, based in Palmer Rapids, and they will be adding an event to the Water and Dirt Festival. So not only were we able to meet and talk about Petawawa and all it has to offer, but we were able to create another partnership by being at that show. And last, for all those interested, as I was saying before, the summer camp registration is opening up in a few short weeks. If we can remember from discussions before, camp sold out in less than 5 minutes last year. So that was well over 500 spots in 5 minutes. We were able to expand that to offer another 128 spots over the course of the summer. So we're hoping maybe we'll last 6 minutes this year. And that is the report for January, if anyone has any questions.
Okay, questions from members of council on the report? Councillor Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a bit of a repetition from the meeting for last month, Colin. Just kudos to you and your team with regards to your youth events and getting numbers out for them. That's outstanding. So great job there. Please pass that along.
Councillor Kerman.
Thank you, Mayor Service. Yeah, congratulations, Colin. There's some very impressive numbers here, and something that that I remember hearing years ago was that the community lacked programming for elderly people, that seniors needed more. And certainly looking at the numbers here, there's no shortage of that happening now. It's nice to see that everything is blended well in that partnership.
Thank you for that. I will, all honesty, Joanne and Rhiannon have taken that opportunity at the senior center to go above and beyond. What they've done has been great, so I do appreciate, and I want to sort of pass the kudos on to them as well.
Further questions or comments? Okay, I wasn't expecting to take shots tonight at council and committee meeting, but congratulations on the Water and Dirt and growing that festival, and big thanks to CNL for being the #1 sponsor again. And it's great that we've got more partners, more events. It's bringing a lot of people into our town. So if it grows, I'm sure the attendance will grow. And I'll just echo the statements on the Silver Threads and our new partnership there. And congratulate Joanne and Rhiannon for us, because obviously they're doing a lot of great work over there. To see over 200 people at Stronger You Fitness is outstanding. So that's great. And I hope that we pass these statistics on to the folks who provide us with the SALT funding, so that they're aware of how our programs have expanded over there. Okay, if there are no other questions or comments, I need a motion to accept the report. Moved by Councillor Driscoll, seconded by Councillor Donovan, that the Recreation, Culture and Tourism Monthly Report be accepted as information. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Thanks, Colin. Okay, next we have Economic Development, ED-01-2025, Retail Business Holidays Act. Christine.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and members of council. First report of the new year, talking about the Retail Business Holidays Act. Council does have bylaws in 2001 and 2008 related to this particular subject. Language in the Retail Business Holidays Act as of 2016, however, allows for a municipality to choose to become exempt from the Retail Business Holiday Act by simply declaring one day as a holiday, as opposed to multiple days or the 9 full days that are covered under the Retail Business Holidays Act. This is also supported by the Municipal Act under Section 148. Over the years, we do have businesses within the community who have elected to open on holiday days or who have requested to open on holiday days, and based on the way that the municipal bylaw is currently, they are not able to open on New Year's Day, Canada Day, Good Friday, or Easter Sunday. In terms of the request from council to look at our bylaws to modernize and to reduce red tape and streamline processes, when looking at this particular bylaw and looking at standards across 444 municipalities, there's a lot of variation. There's a lot of old bylaws, like ours was, dating back to 2001. But currently, a lot of the larger Ontario municipalities have exercised the option to just declare a single holiday. By declaring a single holiday, it allows the business the option of when and if they want to be open. It doesn't require a business to be open on a holiday. So the difference is, under the existing Retail Holiday Business Act, if a municipality says you can't open, then you're not to open on those days. If you only declare the one day, then the businesses have the option. Employees under the Retail Holiday Business Act are supported through the Employment Act. So even if a business elects to open during a holiday, the employee has the option to refuse to work and or to be compensated if they do work in a reasonable way. What the recommendation before council is today is that under section 1.2 of the Retail Business Holiday Act and supported by section 148 of the Municipal Act, that we only designate one holiday day, and further that council exempts the town of Petawawa from the Retail Business Holidays Act, and that we repeal the two previous bylaws associated with that. And I will take questions.
Questions on the report? Councillor Carmody.
Thank you, Mayor Service. Thanks for bringing this forward, Christine. Not a question so much as a comment, I guess. And it seems to make sense to me that it's a lot easier to allow businesses to decide they want to open on a particular day or close on a particular day than to force them into doing something. So I'm thinking put the decision making in the hands of the businesses. Now, I know on the con side of that, you'll have some, because there certainly are some cons, and you'll have some people saying that, well, that forces employees to work on particular days that they may not want to work, and yeah, well, you don't have to work, but if you refuse work, people know the consequences. But I think the latter is the better strategy in this case.
Any further questions or comments? Councillor Coutu.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Christine. Yeah, when I saw the date on the bylaw, 2001, I wasn't surprised that you had an update. But I agree with Councillor Carmody. This creates options. I like that it circumvents some administrative burdens and then meets the requirements of the Act. So thank you very much for bringing this forward.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, and again, it's all about the reduction of red tape. It reduces the need for a business to come and make application to be open on some of these special holidays. Now they have the option. Okay, if there are no further questions and if everybody's comfortable, I need a motion. Moved by Councillor Driscoll, seconded by Councillor Roots, that council under section 1.2 of the Retail Business Holidays Act and supported by section 148 of the Municipal Act 2001 designates one holiday closure day, and further that council exempts the town of Petawawa from the Retail Business Holidays Act, and that council repeal bylaws 180/01 and 473/08. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Okay, Christine, again, we have ED-02-2025, Town of Petawawa logo redesign concepts and applications. Everybody's been looking forward to seeing this come forward.
Thank you very much. So we started the process of creating a branding working committee and looking at getting feedback from the public and engaging with stakeholders with regards to branding as of June of 2024. In December of 2024, we did present the findings of the public survey, and we have been reporting since July ongoing the efforts of the branding process. An RFQ was issued in December of 2024 and awarded to Syntax, who offered to facilitate the work for us at no cost. So we have been working with them since we awarded the RFQ. And at the point that we are now, we've received a number of versions of a possible logo, and we're down to 2. So as part of the agenda package that was presented to council, the 2 logos that we are at are available for council's review and discussion. Elements of these particular logos can be modified. We have one more round of modification. And what we would like to see council is to give us a direction as to logo 3.1 or logo 3.2, and then the recommendations. And then further to that, as part of the report, we are, as staff, are working on the guidelines for how to use the various logos. So we are proposing the use of the municipal crest, which is our existing logo with Town of Petawawa 1865, to be used on protocol, corporate, and legal documentations, including legal documents, contracts, proclamations, and the municipal bylaws, official correspondence from the mayor and council, certificates, awards, and formal recognitions that are issued by the municipality, our municipal flag, the historical or commemorative materials, and on select municipal buildings. These would include the town hall, the fire stations, public works building, and the water wastewater treatment plant. And then we also know when required for regulatory purposes. The marketing logo, which would be one of these 2 options before you that we are looking for recommendation, would be the visual identity and the marketing and promotional communications logo that brands the community and the messaging. So we would be looking to use them in the following ways: on the municipal websites, in social media and digital platforms, on marketing materials, brochures, and all wayfinding signage, on tourism and economic development materials, external stationery and communication materials, including press releases, tax bills, invoices, tender documents, email signatures, and business cards, internal communications, including presentations and staff documents, community outreach and engagement, branded municipal assets, such as vehicles, equipment, uniforms, and promotional merchandise, the municipal water towers, and on select municipal buildings. For us, we've included the Civic Center, the Comfort Station, and buildings of tourism or recreative nature under the management authority of the municipality. These divisions of the 2 logos are in line with multiple references to other municipalities and their divisions. We would formalize this into a guiding document that will allow the Economic Development Department and the Tourism Department to administer the use of these, and a further full document will come with the brand guidelines, which Syntax will also provide. That's basically the summary of this report, and I open the floor for comments from council.
Okay, we have a lot to consider here. Why don't we begin with before we delve into the different logos here, why don't we speak about the use of the municipal crest and the use of the town logo? Is everybody satisfied with the division of the 2 logos? So the corporate logo is the old existing one, and the town logo is whichever one we decide on here this evening. Is everybody happy with the way the division of the logo usage is laid out here? Councillor Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would say no, that I am not in agreement with how it is delivered. Main reasons being, when this was originally brought forward. It was talked about wanting to have symmetrical across the corporation. All of our events have a similar tone. But now we're talking about having one logo on one building and a different logo on a different building. Someone pulling in a vehicle wearing one crest, pulling into a building that has a different crest on it. I feel like that is very much not symmetrical throughout the corporation. And agree when we say official correspondence from mayor and council, but then yet on bills, invoices, tender documents, email signatures would be the separate logo. As far as I'm concerned, the things like that are a reflection of mayor and council. Your tax document, you get it, it's us that approve what we are accepting. So all the things like that, I don't think should be any form of marketing logo. To have something on the water tower that is not on our town hall, I think is also not symmetrical. I do like the color palette. I like the green. I do like the tan. What I'd be willing to go with would be the marketing materials, brochures, wayfinding signage, tourism and economic development purposes. But everything else other than that, I would like to see stay as our original logo. Fine with a color change. But other than that, that would be to the extent of mine, what I'm willing to do. And I mean, I've talked to many people in the community about this, and they are in 99% agreement with me. The biggest complaint was, why are we spending money on something that doesn't need to be changed? And I know in your financial implications, we don't really have much here, and it's going to be done gradually. But every sign we have at a park, they don't age out. They'll all have to be changed. They're burgundy with the old corporate logo. Every sign we have at a building, same thing. The signs on the Civic Center, on the Comfort Station, which was just put on last year, they would all have to be changed. So like, there is a decent cost anticipated with this that, again, is I don't think is laid out. And to say we're going to do it in over gradually, that just pushes that cost off into the unknown. So for those reasons, I don't agree with this. And I'll leave it at that for now. Thanks.
Further questions or comments? Councillor Coutu.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So part of the why, I think, was discussed at different meetings, but the updates required for a lot of the, like you mentioned, the social media and digital platforms. The modern logo will be able to be read by accessibility readers, etc. So there's a lot of reasons to update our brand, and I think that's really what we're talking about here is brand and branding. We're trying to create not just a corporation that, you know, is not dynamic. We want a dynamic one where we're out and we're selling it, just like Colin was talking about, and being at these different events to try and drum up those tourism interests and those partners and draw those dollars here, especially now that we have the MAT tax. So for me, I do see the need to modernize and update. I think we can have more of a discussion about where we draw the line. In our branding meetings, we were talking about things that move versus things that don't move, but there's a few different ways to splice that in terms of what needs to be updated, what doesn't. But I want to say for sure a big thank you to Syntax. The work they've done has been beautiful, and I love their story. The fact that they did this pro bono because of their connections to the community. They've been really responsive for the different iterations we've asked for. So as far as bringing this forward, I'd be really interested to hear my fellow councillors' comments, but I do see the need for it. I think it's the first iteration there that was sort of the preferred one in the committee, but mine for sure. And then we could definitely work out where this goes. Thank you.
Councillor Roots.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Myself, I like the 3.2. I like that the green with the 10. I think it reflects a lot of our area and the greenery, the nature, and the sand and the trees and all that. And again, I would be open for discussion, just like Councillor Driscoll and Councillor Coutu has mentioned. There's room there for discussion on how we go about everything. But in regards to the color scheme and that, I really like the 3.2, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Carmody.
Thank you, Mayor Service. I'm in favor of 3.2 as well. Also, I agree with a lot of what Councillor Driscoll has said. It's hard to say when you embark on something like this, just how the community is going to feel about it. And I was really quite shocked, frankly, at how much pushback there's been on this. Like, what? You guys are going to spend money on that? You're going to do what? And I was like kind of taken aback. Like, I didn't think it was that hot button an issue, but it certainly is. So I'm in favor of advancing cautiously on this one. But 3.2 was my preferred.
Councillor Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to agree. I think we need to really look at the avenues we're looking at for putting on a new logo. I prefer 3.1, just as I like the offset of the tree to the deer. And I think, yeah, a little more discussion on what's getting changed, what is actually requires our seal as opposed to our branding logo would go a long way with this. Thanks.
Okay, thanks for your input. In terms of how we divide where the logo goes, is that something we want to have decided this evening, or is that something we can further debate?
No, we don't have to decide it today. We will bring forward more documentation and work. In order to proceed with this project, though, with the two options of logo design, which would be the marketing, so Syntax can do their work, they do need direction as to which one to work on and provide us the modifications to. I just want to clarify that we already have two logos. We have a burgundy logo that says Petawawa that is malused as our branding logo currently, and we don't have any guidelines for the application of the town crest or the logos. We don't have a structure, we don't have a platform. So it's a little bit of a wild, wild west usage out there and modification. And to answer Councillor Driscoll's comments about the intent of the logo branding, we are still working towards it. We are looking to consolidate and to look at the rest of the logos. We have to start with a primary logo that we can work with, and that's what we're achieving here today is piece number one. Reference to the wayfinding, all of the park logos and everything that are currently in that burgundy format, that's part of FICE and part of the missing gap that was identified in our community and as part of projected work out, is to install and revitalize wayfinding signage. This branding exercise is timely because those pieces of work are part of the work portfolio for staff under the entire facilities ongoing. So this is a timely reference to look at the branding materials and the applications and provide a cohesive path forward so that it's easy for the community, the visiting members to this community, to navigate our community and understand who we are. And this division of use, as I referenced earlier, was not done willy-nilly. It was done in consultation with the branding committee and a review of multiple municipalities who have a crest and a marketing logo.
Okay, so in terms of the division of where the two different logos go, we can work on that a little later in the future through the branding committee and with council's input as well. So in terms of the logo itself, can you go back to page that shows the 3.1? This is 3.2, which you see on the screen. And that's 3.1. So just in terms of myself, so the one that you see on the top left with the brown colored deer and the brown tree trunk, that was the unanimous choice of the members of the branding committee. So I am in favor of the one on the top left of 3.1. We talked about the color palette. When this went out to the public, there was a lot of talk about using the earthy tones. And this is the logo that uses the majority of the earthy tones. You'll notice that there is a bear claw in there. We did consult with an Indigenous member of the community in terms of some feedback, in terms of having some Indigenous representation on our town logo. And after their consultation, it was decided that the bear claw would be the most appropriate. The committee itself did ask that when it gets sent back to the syntax, that bear claw be made a dark black color and slightly twisted just so it looked more natural, and that the black color would allow it to stand out and not be so hidden. In terms of, Christine was explaining the why and how, you know, the town is growing, we're adapting, and we want to get out there and advertise ourselves more. You've heard from Colin this evening that he's gone to 2 large outdoor exhibitors down in Toronto and Hamilton, and he's down there promoting our community. And we felt that a rebranding, and again, I think the message needs to get out there that we're not creating a brand new logo just out of the blue. We are replacing one that we felt was a little outdated, the burgundy Petawawa with the dynamic by nature underneath it. So this marketing logo is a replacement of that to help us advertise our town and market our town a little better. So I think in terms of choosing which logo we prefer, we've heard from Councillor Donovan 3.1, Councillor Coutu 3.1, myself 3.1, and I believe the other 3 were in favor of 3.2. Is that correct?
Like 3.2.
Okay, Councillor Ruby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Are you saying though that 3.1, the top logo then on the left, up here then? Is that what?
All the logos on that page are 3.1.
Yeah. That might look all right with 3.2 too. Like that.
Councillor Carmody, Councillor Driscoll, you guys are 3.2, which is the second page.
I have no preference.
Councillor Carmody?
Yeah, I was preferring 3.2, but it's not a super strong preference. It's, you know, I could probably be swayed.
Okay. So it's,
If I may,
go ahead.
Mayor Service, again, with results from the community consultation and the work to date in consultation, people did resonate very strongly with the tree, the deer, and the water. In our work with syntax, that message was relayed heavily. That is why this version of our marketing logo is not just a single tree. It has all the elements in it that do resonate with this community in a color palette that also was suggested through the process. So that was why the branding committee felt 3.1 was the preferred to the 2 logos.
Councillor Driscoll. Any other comments on the choice of the logo? Okay, so it sounds like 3.1 is preferred by many and acceptable to most. If I could put it that way. And the one on the top left using all the color palettes. And I understand that once you choose a logo, it can be adapted for different purposes using different colors depending on the event and where it is placed. But is everybody in agreement with the need for the bear claw to stand out a little more and having it in a darker color? I see some nods, that's okay.
I'd like to see that. Yeah.
Okay. And everybody is good with not requiring any other alterations by syntax when this gets sent back. Okay, so it looks like we have consensus on 3.1, top left, darkening of the bear claw somewhat, and a slight tilt to it so it looks more natural. Okay, so that's decided. Councilor Driscoll.
Okay, now that we've decided that, I would like to table a motion to table this until at least 1 month from now, until all councillors are present, because I think this is an important decision that everyone should have a say in.
Okay, so we have a motion to table. Now, when we say table, are we tabling the decision? No, I guess I'll ask you this, Councilor Driscoll. Do you want the decision tabled in terms of the choice of the logo that we're sending back, or in terms of accepting this as a whole?
You know what, I think I would like to table everything, because I think the deputy mayor should also have an opinion on this. Changing a logo is, I think, a big step for a municipality, and I think everyone should have a say.
So we have a motion on the floor. I need a seconder. Is that correct, Colin? Do I have a seconder to table this motion? Yes, sir. It's seconded by Councillor Carmody. Do I need discussion here, or do I just call for the vote? I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Those opposed? It's carried. Okay, so if we're tabling this as a whole, does that mean that we're not going back to syntax until we all get together?
Staff will have to go to syntax, and we will have to put them on hold for a month, which means that their pro bono work to date is on hold. We won't meet our schedule for advancing the project. So staff will have to inform them of that.
Okay. Anything further on this? Okay, thanks, Christine. Okay, next we have finance, FIN-05-2025 for the 2025 budget concerning debt considerations. Christine.
Moving from pictures to numbers, it's a complete 180, but still a very important subject. So the report before you, the report before you seeks direction from council with respect to 2 capital projects. If you recall, there were 2 projects that were approved during the 2024 budget. It was the Wolf Avenue reconstruction and the Public Works yard. In terms of priority, the Wolf Avenue project is the most urgent. It is substantially complete, and we are in the, I guess, preliminary stages, as evidenced by this report, in terms of the debt terms for the project itself. So there's a lot of numbers in here. I've tried to summarize and highlight the key information. But the recommendation, at least with respect to Wolf Avenue, is either, or options I should say, not recommendation, is a 5-year term loan, 10-year term loan, or 15-year term loan. The key assumptions is that the loan will start April 1st. We do need to have about a month to work with Infrastructure Ontario once council approves. But within passing of the bylaw, within 5 days, Infrastructure Ontario will kind of put pen to paper to finalize the details. So giving us some time to actually get a formal bylaw in front of council. We are seeking direction now in terms of the 3 options for Wolf. With respect to the Public Works yard, or the expansion, I took a similar analysis for the Wolf project, but also presented kind of the worst case scenario in terms of the highest interest rate and the total budgeted approved amount that was approved in the 2024 budget. So those are the worst case scenarios, and obviously as we near completion on that project, you'll get more accurate and up-to-date numbers. I just wanted to provide council with a comparative in terms of that worst case scenario. So going back to the Wolf Avenue capital project, within the discussion and analysis section of the report, using the Infrastructure Ontario rates, those are the lower rates, and recommended to council that we go with the lower rates and in terms of the 5, 10, and 15 years being those options. And specifically, the financial implications. The first year, or I should say 2025 budget impact is not a full year's worth. So I do have a 2025 cost in the table, again, assuming monthly payments in order to minimize the cost to the town. The more frequent the payment, the less interest that we'll be paying over the term. So excuse me. So for example, just to pick the 5-year term for Wolf, the interest rate is 3.27% on a principal of $1.2 million. So that 2025 cost starting April 1st would be approximately $174,000. And then the full annual cost thereafter. So from 2026, 27, 28, and 29, and then a little bit those kind of January to March will fall to get us for the full 5 years. But the big number that you should be taking into consideration is the annual cost. So that far right column with respect to the 5, 10, and 15-year options before you. And below each table, I have tried to translate what that tax rate increase or tax rate burden would be, varying on those options there. I will pause at this time to grab some water and also open the floor to any questions.
Okay, so questions at this point just on the Wolf Avenue debt for now?
Yes.
Okay, so questions from council on the Wolf Avenue debt financing. Councillor Coutu.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to confirm my understanding. The lifespan of this asset's 20 years. Is that sort of the idea? Thank you.
That's correct, yes. With proper road maintenance, yes.
Further questions from council on Wolf Avenue? I just have one question. I know that we've tentatively budgeted $79,000 for the Wolf Avenue. That's already...
Yes, so this is not in addition to the budgeted figures. So rounding up it is approximately 80,000, yes, for Wolf. So these numbers, you could take 80 off, and that would be the additional increase. But I wanted to present the whole numbers as well as the tax rate, depending on those options.
Okay, thanks. I just wanted to be clear that already tentatively put in the budget for 2025 is $80,000 towards the amortization of the Wolf Avenue debt. So if we chose the 5-year, you would have to add another $90,000 to the 2025 budget. If we chose the 10-year, you would have to add $16,000 to the budget. And if we chose the 15-year, well, that's already contained within the budget.
Correct.
Okay. Councillor Roots.
Is it okay then? What I like to state what I'd like to see. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Christine. For myself, I would like to, for Wolf Avenue, I would like to see option 1, the 5-year, with an open end, meaning that if there is some funds that is owing to the town, this could be used immediately then to be put down and to move on with that project. For option number 2 for the public works, I would like to see an option put in of a 15-year open, meaning again, as we budget every year, this will be a quick turnaround for us. The town has a great history of moving forward with anytime we plan and budget accordingly to pay off any money that's owing. That's the way I see it. I'll leave it up to council to decide. Thank you.
Further questions or comments? Councillor Driscoll.
Just to say I'm in full agreement with Councillor Roots. I don't want to see any more than a 5-year term on Wolf. As I'm sure everyone's aware, I have 0 debt to begin with, wanted, but 5-year will be max and 15-year max for public works for me. Thank you.
Okay, so just, I know that we're talking about the public works expansion here already. So just in terms of the questions for clarification that I asked before, already worked into the 2025 budget year is 120,000 for the amortization of the public works expansion debt. But we don't have a table here for the 15 years. The 20 years, that would already be covered because it's at 99,000. So I'm just wondering, do you have the 15-year cost?
I don't at this time, but I can, given council's direction, present a 15-year option later on, similar to what I have here, 3 options. So I can bring back at a further, at another council meeting or committee meeting, excuse me, 15, 20, and 25. And I do believe by then it'll be a more accurate costing. I do anticipate it not being the full 2.6 million that was budgeted for. But how much less we need to wait until closer to completion in order to bring that number, as well as the interest rates too as well. I would like to clarify too as well that Infrastructure Ontario does have the lower rates as presented in this report for the 5, 10, and 15 years. However, they do not have a prepayment option or without penalty. So if we were to prepay, we would be incurring penalties. What those are, I don't know. Infrastructure Ontario does not do that very often. However, as indicated in the report, the higher interest rates available with TD do have, or at least in the kind of normal rates offered, they do allow a prepayment up to 10%. Of the balance. However, if you look at the interest rates before you, you're going to be paying an additional 50 basis points or half a percentage for that convenience in order that you might be able to prepay it. Additionally, as well, you do have that option on the swap rates. However, the rates are still higher. So in terms of locking in a lower interest rate, we don't know what we will come into in terms of surplus or surprise government funding. So it is being recommended that the infrastructure rates, because of the lower interest rate, that we go with Infrastructure Ontario. I do want to point out for the public works yard, however, if you do look at the 20 and 2025 rate comparison, if TD does continue to provide favorable rates compared to Infrastructure Ontario, then the report will be brought forward to actually go with TD. Again, we want the best rate for our ratepayers, so that report will also be recommending either Infrastructure Ontario or TD, depending on obviously the lower rate.
Councillor Ruth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, just my own opinion. I don't mind paying a bit more on a percentage rate if we can end this as soon as possible. As mentioned, we have a very good history of being very cautious with our money and budgeting. If need be, we cut back on our budgeting to take care of our business at hand. Thank you.
Councillor Carmody.
I'm in full agreement of 5 years for Wolf. We shouldn't be going any more than that. And certainly the lower option, either 15 or 20 for the public works. I mean, we're only talking $2.6 million here. As Councillor Roots points out, in the past, we've done projects, like I can think of a sand dome that cost us $1 million plus, a hockey rink floor, $1 million plus. We didn't take any debt for those projects. And we saved a couple of years for them, made interest on the savings. And so I can't see 25 years for 2.6 million. And Councillor Driscoll pointed out earlier that, you know, you're tying the hands of future councils to an extent of 25 years. That's quite a commitment. And, you know, that's something that they're bound to honor. So it has to be taken quite seriously. So that's why I lean towards the shorter terms.
Councillor Coutu.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much for the really thoughtful presentation of all of these numbers. I certainly agree when it comes to Wolf Avenue. I think it's the prudent path to take the 5-year repayment. That keeps things from doubling, costs from doubling. When it comes to locking in at a lower rate, I think I would be considering that to be the better option, just given the financial realities we're facing right now, where every cost of every input is going up. And to my mind, it makes sense then to lock in at that lower rate to just give yourself those options, because it'll all come out in the wash in the end where you're spending on other projects instead of holding them back, etc. So that's my take on that. And then as for the public works yard, I think I'd be interested in getting some more data there if the ultimate cost and such is a bit in flux, but those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Any further comments or questions? Councillor Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, just to reiterate, the 5-year, 100%, I would like to see it open-ended, and I would like to see us budget for making prepayments every year. Debt is something we've never had, and we have done lots of infrastructure projects, and I do thank the previous councils for being able to do that and deliver us with no debt. And I would like to see us continue to go that way, because the longer we lock in these debts, we do have other infrastructure projects in the near future coming up that are going to be pricey. Whether we do go with a fire station, whether we do go with a recreation, anything in the recreation master plan, whether we're talking about wastewater facility upgrade. So like these are big ticket items that if we have multiple loans booked out over 20 years, we are going to have large debt payments for a long time. So I think these are two small cost in the grand scheme of things, small cost things that we should try to clean up as soon as possible. And then move from there. Thanks.
Councillor Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I totally agree with the 5-year term. I did understand when Christine presented last time that there was no possible open end to that. There would be a surcharge. I think we can certainly budget accordingly a year in advance, as Councillor Driscoll had mentioned, would be prudent. And then there could also be some investment of those revenues. If we're planning a year ahead, we may be able to invest those appropriately to make sure we get some return on it. The public works yard, I would really like to see the 15-year rate. So if we could get that information, that would be awesome. And all for the same reasons everybody said. We want it shorter. We don't want to drag this out, and we don't want to handcuff the future councils with this type of debt. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So I think what I'm hearing here is generally council for the Wolf would prefer the 5-year term. And even though the open-ended loan rate from TD is a slightly higher rate, I'm hearing that council would prefer that to retain the ability to make additional payments or pay off the loan early in terms of the Wolf Avenue. So if that's the direction we go, keeping in mind that we've already budgeted 80,000, that would add 90,000 to our budget for the 2025 year. Is that correct?
So I would like to specify that the amounts with the 5, 10, and 15-year amounts, you are using the lower interest rate. So you would need to add, so I would need to recalculate the rates and then the annual costs. I can do it, and I'm not that fast. I can do it in my head, unfortunately, but I can bring back those numbers, and I would need to bring back a revised bylaw, as this is, if council so chooses to elect to go with TD's interest rates, and we would need a revised bylaw and different credit approval process for to go with TD.
Councillor Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one more thing to clarify. With Infrastructure Ontario, would you be able to find out what the penalty is to break that? Because I know like with a mortgage, usually 3 months interest or X, Y, and Z. So I mean, potentially going with them, and if we are willing to have the money to pay it off, paying the nominal fee might be better off. But so if we could have that as well, please, thank you.
Definitely, and I would have to assume that if council, from what I'm hearing, elects to go with a 5-year term versus a 10 or 15, I would assume that penalty would be much shorter. So I can definitely bring that back.
Okay, so we'll look forward to an abridged report, I guess, with new figures that let us know if we went with the Infrastructure Ontario rate at the 5-year and what the penalties would be.
Mhm.
And also with the TD swap rate loan, which right now is looking at 3.81%. So we'd have to have those figures adjusted in terms of that as well.
Yes, the unfortunate part about interest rates is that they change daily. So what you have before you is a snapshot in time.
Okay, and also in terms of the public works expansion, because we didn't have a table for the 15 years, we'll look forward to you bringing that one forward as well. Although if you just take a scan of what it looks like there, it looks like 5 years would add $10,000 based on the tables that we see there. So a 15-year amortizing would be about 100 grand, which we already have accounted for in the 2025 year budget. Okay, is that all the direction you need? CAO?
Yeah, I just want to take the time to thank council for providing us with this direction. One of the goals here tonight was to get an idea of what we should be budgeting for most conservatively, right? We don't want to bring a budget in front of you that doesn't take the right numbers into account. So this was a good exercise and a good discussion. I just wanted to thank you for giving us this direction so that we can go back and rejig the budget and ensure that we're staying within a reasonable rate when we get down to that. So.
Okay, and just a final comment, and I'll add to what Councillor Driscoll said. Councils in the past, and we should commend them for bringing us to this point, debt-free. And the philosophy in the past was to set money aside until you had enough money to afford a project going forward. What this council decided last year is that we had some projects that we wanted to get done now. And instead of setting money aside for 5 or 10 years until we could build a public works expansion, we decided it was something that the corporation needed in order to meet our growing community and our expansion of the public works department itself, to deal with all the new roads and new sidewalks and expanded staff that we have. So it's a brand new philosophy here in the town of Petawawa, and it's something new for all of us. And going through this process here this evening was something new for all of us, having to decide on years of amortization and interest rates. But I think in the end, we're moving the corporation forward. We're dealing with our growth in a new and different way. And but I agree with everybody, we shouldn't be doing 25-year amortization and leaving future councils far into the future with the debt that we've decided to take on here today. So thanks to council and staff for bringing this new philosophy forward and for deciding on how we're going to do these amortizations. And we'll look forward to your new report coming forward. Okay, so we don't need a motion here. We're going to wait for the amended report. All right, thanks, Christine. Okay, next we have Planning and Development, PL-04-2025, Zoning Bylaw Amendment, Application Z187, JP2G Consultants Incorporated, agent for James W. LaPointe Motor Holdings Incorporated, part of lots 17 and 18, concession 1, Barron Canyon Road. Melanie.
Good evening. So we had reports with pictures and we had a report with numbers, and so these reports have a bit of both for you, pictures and numbers. This zoning bylaw amendment under Z187 is as a result of some severances on Barron Canyon Road. The subject property is just over 22 acres, a rural property with an existing dwelling and outbuildings on private services. 3 severances were applied for. Neighboring land uses are rural including houses, and there's a large horse barn across the road. As I mentioned, the applicant applied for 3 severances from the County of Renfrew. They were granted on August 2nd, 2024, conditional on one of the conditions being a zoning bylaw amendment. The zoning amendment, the planning justification report concluded that the zoning bylaw amendment is consistent with the provincial policy statement outlined in the report. We talk about how the zoning bylaw amendment conforms to the official plan. So that livestock barn across the road required some minimum distance separation calculations to make sure that that livestock operation is not affected by a new house being built across the road. So that calculation showed that the house needs to be well set back from the road in order to provide that buffer between the livestock barn and the new dwelling. So that you're going to see reflected in the zoning amendment. The existing dwelling on the property is on lot 2 being severed, and lot 3 wasn't affected by the livestock barn. In terms of the zoning, the properties are currently zoned rural and residential 1. So the zoning amendment rezones them to residential 1 exception zones. So you'll recall when we approved severances along these rural roads, we rezoned them to R1 to only permit uses in the R1 zone. In this case, for these 3 severances, we have to do 3 different exception zones as outlined in the report. For the first lot, it's to get that larger minimum front yard depth distance between the barn and the new dwelling. For the lot 2, it was to prohibit the existing outbuildings to be used to house livestock, as they wouldn't meet the minimum distance separation requirements if they were to house livestock. And for the third lot, it's reducing the minimum lot frontage from 30 meters to 20 meters. And those changes are shown in the draft zoning bylaw and the draft schedule attached to the report. And because of these large driveways required on lot 1 because of the horse barn across the road, and lot 3 because of the odd lot configuration, we require development agreements so that the fire department can actually access these houses that far off the road. So the fire department normally fights fires leaving their equipment on the municipal road, and they only enter private driveways if they have to. And so because these lots, the houses will be set that far back, we will require that their driveways are built wide enough for emergency vehicles. And if the driveway is longer than 90 meters, there has to be a turnaround at the residence. So those will be captured in development agreements for 2 of the lots being proposed. And there's a public meeting for this amendment next Monday, March 3rd. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Melanie. Questions on the report? No questions? I like the addition of the emergency vehicle procedures being added to ensure the safety not only of our firefighters, but of the residents in the homes themselves. Okay, so this report was for information purposes only, so we'll accept that report for information. Next, we have PL-05-2025 zoning bylaw amendment application Z189, Kevin Serre and Ashley Party, part of Lot 5, Concession 8, Rance Road. Melanie.
All right, this report is for information purposes as well, with a public meeting next week as well. Similar to the last report we just talked about, there were some severances created, and a rezoning is a condition of approval. So these lands are on Rance Road, corner of Rance and Seamus Roads for the severances in particular, 56-acre rural property. Neighboring land uses include rural, residential, and aggregate operations. As I mentioned, there severance applications for 2 lots shown in Figure 2. They were granted on March 29th, 2023, with the rezoning being one of the conditions of approval. When a severance is granted with conditions, you have 2 years to meet the requirements. So this rezoning has to be approved and enforced in effect by March 29th, 2025, so that these severances do not lapse. The provincial planning statement was reviewed as part of this application. One of the main considerations for this file is the mineral aggregate resources that are across the road. When the severances were granted, before they were granted, a study was completed by the proponent as part of getting approval of those severances, showing that proving those 2 severances would not detrimentally impact the aggregate pit, and vice versa, the aggregate pit wouldn't adversely impact the enjoyment of a residential dwelling. So that study was completed, and the lots, there's sufficient land available to meet the required setbacks for a new dwelling from that pit. So on that basis, the zoning amendment is considered consistent with the provincial planning statement. It's designated, the lands are designated rural in the official plan. The official plan also talks about doing these studies to make sure that impacts from aggregate operations are mitigated. So again, noted the requisite studies were completed and accepted before the severances were granted. So the zoning bylaw amendment conforms to the official plan on that basis. From a zoning perspective, they're currently zoned rural, and as I mentioned previously, for severances for residential lots, we rezone them to R1, residential 1, and this allows the lots to be used for residential uses in accordance with the R1 zone. The zoning bylaw does have a separation distance requirement of 150 meters for a new dwelling from an extractive industrial or extractive industrial reserve zone. But the lots, one lot is not affected by that 150 meters. The second one is a large lot, and there is lots of room, sufficient size to build outside of that setback. So again, a public meeting is scheduled for next Monday, March 3rd.
Questions on the report? Everybody's good with that one? Okay, so we'll look forward to the public meeting next week on that one, and we'll accept that as information. Thanks, Melanie. And next we have PL-06-2025, Habitat for Humanity, potential project in Petawawa. Melanie again.
All right, looking for some direction from council on continuing to engage with Habitat for Humanity. Just a bit of quick background. Back last fall, the CEO of Habitat for Humanity Greater Ottawa reached out to the mayor with interest in potentially doing a project here in Petawawa. The CAO and I met with Habitat on October 7th, 2024, just to discuss in general what kind of growth Petawawa is experiencing, what are some of the challenges with housing, would there be any land available, maybe some town-owned surplus lands available, just a very general discussion about potential sites, things like that. They looked for things like real estate listings and all sorts of demographic and market information. They are also interested in exploring a fit for one of their Restore locations, which is a retail store where they resell building materials and furniture, home decor, things like that. They provide funding for their overall Habitat program. They're thinking that Petawawa might be a good fit for one of those locations, so that's also part of their interest on top of the housing. In early December, Habitat's Senior Director for Housing Development came to Petawawa to tour the town and also look at some of the sites that they are interested in. And then after Christmas in mid-January, the CAO and I had another meeting with Habitat just basically to confirm their interest in Petawawa and what would be the next steps. So at that time, they stated that the next step for them is to do a deeper dive, more due diligence, but they would like to establish a memorandum of understanding with the town outlining terms and conditions, what is the town's expectations, what are their expectations, make sure everything aligns for a solid path forward. And so that is basically where we're at today. I'm looking for direction from you or support from council to continue engaging with Habitat and to work with them to draft an MOU to bring before you for review and discussion. And also want to mention that in parallel, Habitat will be at the Development Summit next Tuesday, and they are going to provide a brief presentation on the Habitat program in general, nothing specific about Petawawa, but just what their program is and how their business model. So with this report, there are no immediate financial implications. If there were, as part of the draft MOU, that would be brought forward at that time. Thank you.
Thanks, Melanie. I remember back in October how excited I was to hear that we're going to have a meeting with the CEO of Habitat for Humanity and that there was some interest in them doing a project here in Petawawa. As we all know, one of our mandates is to provide more housing and especially affordable housing. And what better way to provide affordable housing than through Habitat for Humanity, and have a collaboration and a partnership with an organization like this, I thought was just fantastic. So it was great after the initial meeting that they came back and then came back again and wanted to do site visits, which means the interest level is there, which is great. And to hear that they're also considering us for a location for a restore is absolutely fantastic as well. I've been to a few of those restores in different communities, and it's a great place to get well-priced building materials and other assorted options like that. So I see this as a win-win all around, and I'm looking forward to hearing their presentation next week at our housing summit. And I know we've heard a lot from the CEO already, but just to hear about all of their other projects and what they have to offer. The other thing that I found really outstanding is that all of their housing projects are for families, whether it's a single parent or a regular nuclear family. You have to be a family to get into some of these dwellings. Okay, Councillor Roots.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I totally agree with you, and I think it's something that we should explore and get more information from. So I'd be willing to move that we give the staff direction to move forward. Thank you.
Councillor Coutu.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm guessing you went to the one in Guelph. That's a town I know you visited too, and just to say, I totally agree. This would be an amazing option in our town. The restores are fantastic. So thank you for your work thus far. And I'm really excited, and I would definitely support this being pushed forward. Thank you.
Councillor Carmody.
I'm generally supportive of the, thank you, Mayor Service. I'm generally supportive of the concept, although I am a little concerned that we have dedicated a fair bit of staff time to this now, and we're moving ahead with a memorandum of understanding, and I'm not clear on how much effort is going to be required on our part to put together an MOU. And the financial implications, there's no immediate financial implications, but there may be. And I'm interested to know a little bit more about what those financial implications may be.
The CAO is going to tackle this one.
Sure. What the discussion has been up until now is locations in the community and suitable pieces of property that would make sense. Two of the properties that we have discussed are owned by the town, and really it's 2 1-acre properties in, is it Oak Street neighborhood?
It's in the Briarwood subdivision.
Yeah.
Oak Spruce.
Yeah. So we've looked at those. Really all we've done is provide them with information. It hasn't been a ton of time on our part. It's really just providing them with CAD files so they can look at the properties and understand. These are the 2 properties that our former Director of Planning and Building Services was looking at for a possible tiny home development. So when Habitat approached us, the light bulb sort of went off and went, well, rather than tiny homes, why not a row housing development, such as Habitat has done in other communities, which is, I think, what we're talking about at the end of the day. So at the end of the day, really our financial contribution, if we like what they're proposing, could possibly be the disposition of land for no cost, if there is a desire to do so. Again, I think we need to take a step forward with the memorandum of understanding, continue the discussion, and obviously we wouldn't be committing to anything that was legally binding with an MOU. But we want to be able to at least have that direction that we continue those conversations and map something out that might make sense for both parties.
Further questions or comments? Everybody's good? So if you're comfortable, I need a motion then. Moved by Councillor Root, seconded by Councillor Coutu, that Council direct staff to continue engaging with Habitat for Humanity to explore the potential for a project in the town of Petawawa, including drafting a memorandum of understanding for Council's review. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Thanks again, Melanie, to you and all of your staff for all the work that went into this. Next, we have legislative services. Colin has patiently waited, even though he'd be here anyways.
Save the best for last. Thank you, Mayor Service, through you to council. Before you is my monthly legislative services report. I will briefly just highlight a few key points within my report. Under animal control for the month of January, we had a couple excessive dog barking issues on Chad and Norman, and verbal warnings were issued to both for both of those residents at the home. Under parking, on the next page, we had 31 incidents, parking infractions issued for the month, and we had 29 that were we received payment on for a total of $660 in revenue received. I'll just touch on the snow removal. We had 5 written warnings issued to residents for depositing snow across the road or across their laneways. Lisa, Radke, Sack Road, Pine Grove Crescent, and Gardner Crescent. Under transient trader, we have 1 application that we received back in January, which I reported on as well, and we gave approval for them to, it's Cogeco Cable, Yes Acquisitions, and they have a transient trader license approved also for the month of February, and then again in May, June, September, and October. And you'll be receiving one as well for next month for Bell to go door to door for cable, high speed. Also under Commissioner Vos, we had 33 requests for the month in January, and 4 requests were denied due to they were divorce court matters or requests for a guarantor, which we no longer do under our new rules for commissioning documentation. Under marriage licenses, we had 2 licenses received for the month of January, and the revenue received for the month of $200. I would be happy to take any questions should council have any.
Questions on the legislative report? Seeing none, I need a motion to accept the report. Moved by Councillor Driscoll, seconded by Councillor Donovan, that the Legislative Services Monthly Report be accepted as information. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Okay, there's nothing for general matters, but we do have a closed meeting this evening. So I need a motion to go into closed. Moved by Councillor Coutu, seconded by Councillor Carmody, that the meeting be closed pursuant to Section 239, Paragraph 2, Paragraph B of the Municipal Act 2001, S.O.2001, C.25 to discuss personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried.